Hi, welcome to an episode of how to put together our Christmas containers. I'm here with Mary at Highland Gardens here in central Pennsylvania, and she's an expert at working on all things related to decorating. So if you are not a decorator, you definitely want to come see Mary and all the Christmas elves here at Highland Gardens. So thank you so much for inviting me in to see your workshop.
Anytime.
Well, I'm really excited to do this because I love to decorate with Christmas greens. So when we are putting a pot together, what are some things that we need to think about before we start designing?
So first you want to think about where you're putting it. So if it's on a table like this, where you're going to see it from all sides, you're going to want it to be a centerpiece.
Right.
If it's going to just be on like against a wall or something, it'll just be a one-sided.
Right.
So that's kind of where you start.
Okay.
Then picking out your pot and container is your next step.
Okay.
And kind of the style that you're going for.
Great. So we certainly have a really nice container here, and your customers can bring in their own container, or you have containers for sale, right?
Yep, absolutely.
And then you mentioned as well, you've got inserts like decorated, ready to go that they just have to drop in a pot.
Yep. So any empty pots that you just pulled annuals out of or something, you can just take our little insert, stick it in, and then you're done.
Oh, that is super simple. So for someone who's just lacking time or expertise.
Right.
So we're going to do a traditional pot first. So we've got several different types of greens. This is one of my absolute favorites. It literally smells like Christmas right now in here. So I'm super excited to be able to help be her assistant tonight. So first thing, you've got some soil in this pot. So why is that a good idea?
So we use kind of a heavier potting soil when we fill our pots. So we do it for a couple reasons. First, it holds the plants upright.
Right.
Instead of like Oasis that a lot of people use. And then we wet it. So we let it drain down, pack it down, tamper it, add some more, and that will hydrate the pines and also secure it as well.
Right, so it's heavy, so that way if you get a windstorm, it's outside, it's not going to fall over.
Right.
So that's certainly one consideration, is these do better if they're left outside where it's cold.
Correct.
So they're less likely to drop their needles.
Yep, it's just like your cut Christmas tree inside.
Okay, perfect. So I know that Christmas trees and greens are sort of less available this year. So these are available now, right, at Highland Gardens. So we definitely want people who are interested in this to come on out and see you so they can get a good selection.
Right.
Okay,
Exactly.
so I'm going to hand you these off.
So first, a really important thing is we're going to do a one-sided arrangement today.
Okay.
So you want to start with finding the best branches with like good points and strong stems.
Okay.
So if I'm trying to find that main starting point, I try to find a really straight one.
Okay.
This one's actually pretty good.
Great.
Another thing is when you're starting to do your base, your skeleton, and your form, you want to make sure that your arrangement is about 1.5 times the size of your container.
Okay.
So that helps with your proportion.
Got it.
It can be higher than that, but never lower.
Got it.
So I'm just going to start. I use my Felco.
Okay. Love those.
Yep.
It's always good to have good shears.
Yes.
That's a great gift for gardeners.
It is.
Pro
And
tip.
you do want to cut it at an angle.
Okay.
So it pierces the soil and it doesn't fall over.
That's a great point.
And then I kind of just get these little guys at the bottom.
That way you've got more room to shove it down in the pot,
Yep,
right?
and it doesn't kind of stop and
Okay.
get all awkward on us.
Got it.
All right,
Okay.
so I will do it from this end for now.
Okay. So we're decorating towards ourselves in that
Well,
way. Or
whatever you prefer.
okay. Yep.
Okay.
Perfect. And we'll turn around and show our masterpiece once it's over.
Yeah.
So we've got several different greens here from you to choose from. Which one would you like next?
So first, I start with things like the Fraser that have really good structure and points to them.
Got it.
So what I'll do is I'll do a center one,
Okay.
and then I'll tear it down to make a triangle.
Oh, a great
So
idea.
that's what I do.
Okay.
So I'll take more of the
Okay.
Fraser,
Great.
and I do like to use multiple different kinds of greens because it gives you that nice texture.
Yeah.
And it breaks it up.
It's a great idea.
I'm handing you my scraps.
Perfect.
All right.
I will take scraps. Less to clean up later.
Right? And then pieces like this that kind of tend to go more this way, I just put that on the other side so it's even.
Got it.
Does the designing for you.
Perfect. So we've got a right-sided one, so we're putting it on the right side of the pot.
Yep.
Okay.
And then also, sometimes nature doesn't want to bend to our will.
Okay.
So we gotta
Trick.
kind of use it to our advantage. So it's not always going to be exactly straight.
Okay.
So sometimes I will put it in at an angle and kind of angle it so it's straight
It's a smart idea.
against the pot. And it
Okay.
makes it a lot easier.
Use that as your guide.
Yep. All right. So now we got our 3 main points here.
Okay. Perfect.
And sometimes you gotta readjust it, pack the soil in a little more. All right.
Okay. That's looking great.
Yeah. So next, well, you know what? For this one, I'm gonna do 5.
Okay.
Just because it's such a big pot.
All right.
And I actually have this forked one here.
Okay.
So I can just cut it here.
Okay.
And
All right.
that'll kind of help us give it a little bit more. Round it out a little.
Perfect. So if you want to, whoops, turn that one around once you get that 5th piece in there, and we can show everybody what this is looking like so far. We have our own little forest of trees here.
Yes.
Looks very, very nice.
You can see that triangle there.
Yes. And I love how it's got sort of a gray undertone and it's sort of mocking the gray in the pot, so it looks really nice together.
And that's what I try to look for when I'm picking a pot, is something that's gonna
Complement.
be pretty compatible with most styles and or palettes in color.
Got it. Okay.
So next, I usually do the white pine next.
Okay.
So these are really nice because
They
it
look-
gives you that fluff and it fills in those empty spaces really well.
And it's a different texture, like you were
Yeah.
talking about, so it gives it a little different movement.
Right.
So I like that.
Super fluffy.
Very fluffy.
So same kind of thing. I'm just kind of going in between the empty spaces of my other points.
Okay. So just sort of filling in the gaps.
Yep.
Okay. And we'll show the audience what that looks like here in a minute.
And I try to tier it as I go down with the
Okay.
different greens.
So again, sort of that triangle
Yep, you
pattern.
want to taper it subtly.
Okay.
So I'm probably gonna go for, there's certain one I like. Sorry, I'm a creature
No
of habit.
problem.
So, let's see what I got here. Yeah, I'll take that one.
Okay. So what are you looking for when you're looking to cut?
So, you can see, usually with the white pine you have that main leader,
Uh-huh.
which is really good for your center.
Right.
So that's the one I'm really looking for.
Okay.
But then you have these side shoots that also have some really good height.
Perfect.
Another thing I like to point out to people too is it's always better to cut longer stems
And then
because
you can shorten them.
always shorten it.
That's a great point.
When you cut something too short, sometimes you can get that height back, but it's a little more challenging
Absolutely.
and you don't always have the material.
Got it. What are your favorite greens to decorate with?
I really like Cryptomeria.
Uh-huh.
It has really cute little buds at this time of
Oh,
year, like
nice.
little tan ones.
Uh-huh.
And it kind of looks like a juniper, but not as jabby.
Okay.
So they're really pleasant.
'Cause some of these greens certainly are sharp and are probably not ideal for children or elderly who have thin
Right.
skin.
Yep.
So we want to try to pick things that are soft. If you're going to have helpers,
Exactly.
definitely want to choose some things that aren't still give you that color and texture, but aren't going to potentially hurt you.
Yeah. So another one is just anything yellow, like a
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
more of like the Hinoki cypresses.
Yep.
And there's a couple other golden ones. I'm trying to think of like the Rhine gold.
Yep.
And arborvitae is a really nice one too.
Right.
And of course anything fragrant
Yeah.
is nice. Right. So this is my second tier.
Great. So we're going
If
to
you will.
turn that around and show our audience. So kind of a fan shape here, but it looks really pretty and very full. And it's just very fun. Love
Yeah.
it. Love it. Looks awesome. Okay.
Nice and fluffy.
So do you want to try a different one now?
Yeah,
Okay.
so now I'll go more towards the Oxford cedar here.
Okay. And this is really nice. It's got a nice yellow undertone, so picks up sort of the gold colors you typically see this
Yeah.
season.
So I am going to use this
Okay.
funky guy. Now you can see if you look at this here, this guy's a little wonky on this side. So what I would do is, I know I'm not going to use this whole thing.
Okay.
So I'm probably just going to cut a little snip off here.
Perfect. So you're using some of these longer branches?
Yep, I can use these down towards the bottom.
Oh, that's a great idea.
And it's really nice because if you cut it right, you can use your scraps in other places of your arrangement.
Great idea. So keep them long is
yep.
your advice on that. So we've got the tall one that she's putting in the middle where she's stripped off some of the little branches. We're going to use these for the front.
Yep. And another nice thing about this kind of green is that it fans out nice.
Okay.
So if you, again, have that awkward space that no matter how many times you try to stick something in there to fill it, it just doesn't work out, this is a good green to cover those spots up.
Okay. So I've got two for you to choose from.
Right.
Okay.
So, probably going to do a little lower here.
Okay. All right. Stick that there. It looks so pretty. But I love how you're using the natural tendency of some of these to lean to sort of get it to lean in the direction you want it to go. So you're not fighting its nature. You're sort of working with its uniqueness. It's a smart idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And it gives it that graceful kind of
sort of just
fancy, airy look to it.
And I love how full this pot looks with not really a whole lot of branches. So it's not a huge investment to do this. And certainly you can use Christmas tree branches, but you're probably going to want to mix that so you have these different textures in the pot.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
All right.
So what's next?
So next, I'm just going to keep tearing it down, but I'm going to start again with the Fraser.
Okay.
So I'm going to establish my green base, and then we can do the fun stuff.
Okay, so now we're going to start threading back in where we started.
Yep.
So I'm going to give you a few to choose from.
All right.
Got like that one? Okay.
Some longer ones on
Yep.
that.
So you're basically using almost every piece that we've pulled out, which is really great.
That would be ideal. Some don't want to work as well with you as others. So again, we're just going to break that up.
Okay. So we're just continuing to come towards the front of the pot, and we will show you what we're doing here. Looks really pretty how she's turning things on an angle so that it's creating sort of that arc fan effect that we've been seeing that she's been doing with each layer. She's just continuing that on down.
Repetition.
Repetition's good.
But also, it doesn't have to be perfect either, and that's what's nice, is it's very forgiving.
Oh, I love that.
Let's see if I can find one more nice point here for this middle.
Okay. Oh, one of our scraps jumped off the table.
Does that. All right.
You said we were going to make a mess. We're doing a good job of that.
I told you.
Yep. It's okay.
All right. So,
Gotta make a mess and make it look pretty.
that's right.
So what's going to come after these branches? Are we ready for some color?
Yeah, so we're going to do a little bit more white pine just to
Okay.
kind of fill it out, and then we get to do the fun stuff.
Okay. So when you're thinking about color, some people like bows, and you guys have a whole wall of bows.
Yes.
And then some people are bow averse. So what would be some alternatives for color if we're not going to use bows or...
So, holly,
Yep.
winterberry, red twigs, curly willow branches is a nice option for like more of a naturey look.
Yeah.
And just any kind of pick too that a lot of Christmas stores sell, like the ones over here. They'll definitely give your greenery a little bit of pop of color without being too busy.
Absolutely. So...
And it all depends on people's tastes a lot of the time.
Yeah, sure.
Birds, we have a lot of birds.
Yeah, I love that you got some little red cardinals. Those are super cute and really pop against the green color. And then you have some natural looks too. Big pine cones, little pine cones. And then we were seeing some of these gorgeous winter berries here.
Yes.
I absolutely love this. I have it growing in my garden, so
Nice.
I'm always, I would say torn, because I don't want to take the berries away for the birds, but they sure are pretty this time of year.
Well, I do tell people who have red twig dogwoods, is that they need thinned out every few years, which is a good time to take advantage of their beautiful branches.
Well,
you got to do it anyway.
Gonna go home and do that right away, because
Yeah.
mine definitely could use that. And
Right.
I love them this time of year. So we're gonna show you where we are.
Right.
I mean, it's just amazing how full that looks with just a few branches. We've used, what, maybe 4 or 5 branches
Yeah.
at this point?
I'd say of a few different kinds.
Yep.
You can see how it kind of tears down. And then you do want to, if you have empty spaces, that's okay, because that is when you cue the winterberry.
All right, so we've got 2 beautiful winterberry picks that are just loaded with berries, and these are going to be fabulous outside. Now, if they come inside, what's the trick for keeping the berries onto the stems?
I wish I had a trick for you. Don't try to bump into it. That's the
right?
fastest
and
way.
keep it watered
Yep.
for pretty good.
Keep
Yeah.
it watered and keep the birds out of your window, I guess.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
I think I'm going to take this
Okay.
one. And sometimes when I'm using whole stems like this,
Right.
I'll cut maybe a couple of the back so it lays flat.
Okay.
I did notice with this arrangement that this side is a little empty.
Okay.
So I'm actually going to orient it over here to
Okay.
kind of even out that point there.
Great.
So I'm just going to cut a couple of
So
these
we're just
rogue
taking off a
ones.
couple of the back ones so it'll lay a little flatter, and then we can maybe use those somewhere else in the arrangement.
Absolutely.
So,
And another thing, I'm sure not everybody has every single florist material.
right.
I typically use these little wood picks for smaller winterberry
Okay.
branches.
Great idea.
But you can always use your leftover branches.
Okay.
And just kind of wire that on there.
Yep.
That's
Great
one
idea.
way of doing it.
So I noticed you did a trick that I do when I'm doing flowers in a vase, which is you're holding up the length and cutting it accordingly to fit down in the pot so it's
Yep.
not too tall.
Yep.
So you sort of measure where you want it to go and then cut it.
Yep, and then
Great.
you do got to account for that space that it's going to go into.
Sure.
But yes, exactly.
Okay. Oh, that looks so pretty. That red just really, really pops, and such a nice hallmark of the season. Fantastic. So we talked about a few other berries too. You mentioned junipers.
Yep, blue junipers are nice for more of that winter wonderland kind of look.
Uh-huh.
And then, trying to think what other berries we have. If you have pyrocanthus, firethorn, that's a really pretty orange berry, but you do gotta worry about those big thorns that come with it. So,
Yeah.
trial and error,
Yep.
pros and cons. All right, we'll do one more.
So we're getting our second winterberry into the pot here. Just stunning against these green branches. And you said these will last as long as that soil stays moist, really probably past the new year, right?
Absolutely. If they're in cold weather and they're not getting too beat up by snow and whatnot, they'll last a while.
Right.
And even this, when it does get snowed on, it gives it another frosty look.
Winter
It adds to
wonderland.
it. Exactly. All right. So,
This looks beautiful. So, I mean, certainly you could stop there if you're not a bow person, but I think we've talked a little bit about a bow, and you guys have tons of bows here to choose from, but I think this sort of like encaptures the green and red
yeah,
traditional Christmas look.
absolutely. So I will attach this, and then one more thing I like to do is add some pine cones in there.
Oh, I love that
kind of
idea.
round it out.
And that sort of hides anything that may not just be kind of perfect, right? Now, would you wire some of these too, potentially, up into the green?
I typically will wire it to a branch
Uh-huh.
or to a pick,
Okay.
and then put it in because
Okay.
they're pretty heavy sometimes.
Yeah.
So it'll weigh it down depending on what kind of pine cone it is.
Gotcha.
I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I do try to work in odd numbers.
Okay.
So any pine cones I make, I try to do either 3 or 5.
Okay.
For this, I'll just do 3 since we have 2 winterberries
Okay.
there.
So you want to show your pretty bow off?
Yes.
Right. So there are Santa's elves here making tons and tons of bows of every color and combination that you can think of, traditional and non-traditional Christmas colors. An entire wall of them that I saw, and I have made those bows, and they are not easy.
They are not. Your hands will cramp up after.
Yeah, so I have purchased bows here before, and I use them year after year, so it's one of those that if you store them properly, they can be reused.
Do you do the old newspaper stuffed in the loops trick?
So I usually lay them on top. I have big plastic bins for all my ornaments, and they usually go on the top, the last thing, so they don't get squished. So
Right.
but there's a cover over the top. But otherwise, stuffing them would probably be a really good idea, so they keep their shape.
Yeah, but if it's wired, it's not too
Yeah,
bad.
it's not going to go anywhere for sure, because you guys use really nice wired ribbon, which sort of keeps those beautiful, full-looking loops, which is nice.
And it's easier to work with, too. All right, so with pine cones, it's actually pretty easy.
You might want to come here so
Yeah.
you can show them. Yep.
So, you can actually just stick the wire in between the little cones and hide it. So
Oh,
people don't
that
even know it's there.
is brilliant.
And what I do is I'll twist it, find my anchor, whatever I'm using.
So we're
In
just
this case, it's a
reusing a little pine
Yep.
piece that was left over, and floral wire here that she's got. She's like the Santa's elves with all her tools here. Got her tool belt full of all these
Funny.
great little tricks.
funny story. This is actually my old server pouch.
Oh,
And I was
there
like,
you go.
repurpose it. This wire actually is a 22 gauge. I
Okay.
have found that this is the perfect width, just in the sense of it's strong enough to hold things,
Right.
but it also
It's
is
forgiving.
easy to work with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of them are really, really stiff and actually can be a little pointy.
Yes.
So this might be a mom and dad activity if a kid is helping out. Maybe they can place it in the pot, but maybe you would do the wiring piece so you don't accidentally poke little fingers and we get little tears putting together the pot.
Right.
Because I have poked myself and it's not pleasant. And you can draw blood. So,
Absolutely. I've learned that with cemetery boots.
yeah. So
All right.
we want to have happy Christmas memories, not sad. Oh, that looks so pretty. I love that. So you mentioned an odd number, so 3 or 5
Yep.
typically is
So-
what you look for.
So I'm probably gonna do one there, and one here.
Okay,
Just a nice little triangle to round it out.
great. Okay,
Come back over here.
sure.
So, as you can see, it's getting its height and some color, some berries.
Well, and I like that it is so tall because I think sometimes you imagine that you need a really tall container, but actually you're using the height of the branches to create height in
Right.
the containers. It's a really nice look. So we're just wiring this next pine cone for insertion.
All right.
Perfect.
Next. It can be a little time consuming.
Well, the good news is that, I mean, this really could be a fun fall and winter activity for the family. We're inside the greenhouse, so maybe you can do this inside and then move it to the outside if it's not too heavy. Or do it during the day when it'd be maybe a bit warmer, but I just think it'd be fun, and then you can hot chocolate it. It's too
Yeah,
cold.
absolutely.
Hot
And-
chocolate makes everything better.
It does.
I noticed you guys have some cider. I remember that cider's pretty tasty.
And we have a secret stash of hot chocolate for
What?
this stuff.
Secret stash?
Yes, we do
Okay.
that sometimes.
Well, there may be emergency SOS hot chocolate that has to occur if we get too cold.
Perhaps.
So, yeah.
I have a whole box I can give you.
Okay, awesome.
So
That
there's
looks
that
really pretty. So you're still
second.
sticking with that sort of triangle design, one up, one down, and maybe one to the left.
Yeah, because
Okay.
it's really all about harmony.
Sure.
And the pine cones are a nice way to get the observer of the arrangement to kind of, their eye will follow that line of pine cones. So it
Love
gives
it.
you like a little journey into a woodland forest.
Great idea. I mean, really bringing some of nature's outdoors, indoors, and I think, you know, we're kind of in the situation this time of year where, you know, we're thinking about being more maybe eco-friendly and, you know, reusing and repurposing and going into the garden and pulling some things that can be used, like pine cones. And this is a mast year. There's tons of pine cones this year because we had such a drought in 2020 that our trees have put out a truckload of pine cones. So some of these can accent what you already have in your gardens, which is great.
Yeah. Would you mind handing
Not
me one
at
more
all.
pine cone?
Okay.
And then, yeah, I mean, and as far as using the plants in your yard, you'd be surprised how many things you can use in arrangements.
Sure.
Like boxwoods, any
yeah.
kind of broadleaf evergreen. The only thing with those is a lot of the time, it's not like your typical conifer that you can cut and kind of just stick in a pot. Those are kind of better if you wilt-proof them.
Okay.
And that kind of just keeps the hydration in there a little longer.
So how do you wilt-proof?
So it's basically just a concentrate.
Okay.
And the ratio is 1 to 10.
Okay.
Any size container.
Okay.
And you can just dip it.
Okay.
Or spray it.
Okay.
Let it dry, and then it's ready.
Okay.
So it's not super hard. Most garden centers carry it.
Okay. And
And-
that'll help preserve the greens.
Yep.
That's a great idea, especially if they're going to be coming inside, because you already have lots of things to clean up in the holiday season, so this would be one less thing to have to worry about.
Exactly.
Great idea.
And it doesn't hurt to treat your outside plants with it anyway in November.
Oh, okay.
Like especially cherry laurels, they really
Have a tendency to,
want that.
dry out.
Yep.
With our winds lately, that's probably a great
Right.
idea. For sure.
especially anything planted in the fall, since fall is such a busy time for people to be
Right.
doing such things.
Time.
All right.
So this is just looking spectacular, and I think that this would be beautiful in any home garden, inside or outside, and would be a lovely gift for someone if you're going to be visiting over the holidays, maybe to just spread a little holiday cheer. So do you want to show them your
Absolutely.
work of art here? It really looks spectacular, and you have some of these ready to go. So
Absolutely.
if you're not a decorator, or maybe you're lacking time, you got them, so they can just pick it up and go.
Absolutely.
And then they can bring their pots in too. If they want it in a certain pot, you'd be glad to decorate it for
Yeah,
them.
I actually just made a new custom order sheet for people to make it very easy for them to specify, and if they have a container, they can bring it in. It's pretty easy.
Fantastic.
Even a catalog to reference.
Awesome.
So there you go.
Well, Mary, this looks gorgeous.
Thank you.
So we've wired up your 3 pine cones, and we've got them all sorted here. If we have a client that is wanting to bring in their own pots, you have an order sheet so they can choose what they want, and you'll create it for them.
Absolutely. We have a custom order sheet for either a container you see here, have at home, or even just an insert to pop in there too.
Fantastic.
Depends.
So this is our modern take on this. We're going to switch gears and do a modern take on the same pot for those who maybe want a non-traditional Christmas look.